after all, these people are all, and it's a sad thing to realize, it's just all, you're always alone because they're all just reflections of you. They're all just mere reflections of you and all your internal energy fluctuations. They are going through their own thing. Like I was saying, do you understand that most of the people's attention span is 10 seconds to 10 minutes? Now, you give them so much importance. You think, oh my God, they're thinking of me, they're judging me. Bullshit. They already forgot. They already fell asleep. They already called somebody and their attention completely redirected, you know? Do not assume that other people are as conscious as you are. And the painful part when you're so emotional, like, oh, but like, I want to connect to people, I want to be loved, I want to, and when you realize that no matter what you do, you will never get it because you're dealing with a mirror only. And the only way you transform a mirror into a living being who will reflect that is by pulling your energy back into yourself. Pull your energy back into yourself and you just prioritize your peace and contentment. Suddenly, everyone is after you. They start calling you. Suddenly, they want to talk to you. Suddenly, they want to do something for you. But at that moment, you don't care. So it's a very painful reality, actually. You're like, okay, so to be loved, I need to pull away. And I guess that's how the avoidance or narcissist also coped in their childhood, because how would they become like this? Is because they saw that the attention would come to them only if they would pull away, shut down, close down, not talk. Eventually, someone would notice. And they learned to draw attention in that toxic way. Other people who are anxious learn to do it by throwing tantrums, like yelling or creating conflict. But fundamentally, both groups, whether avoidant or anxious, were devoid of that attention, and they just created different coping mechanism or opposite just because they noticed that their parents were of a certain kind. And if they would, for example, for this parent, if they would withdraw, then the parent would eventually come and maybe give them some attention, which they would eventually think is love. And for some, only if they would throw themselves on the floor, stomp feet, hit their head against the wall, or yell, then the parent would at least give them something. Even if they hit them, this is still an attention, this is still energy. You understand? Both cases, avoidant and anxious, are corrupt at the core. And they are corrupt because they didn't receive balanced inflow of energy. They haven't received this balanced inflow of energy. They need to they needed to adapt, and that adaptability was corruptibility, meaning that their parent, let's say, would be doing this and that, and they would notice, okay, if I cry, nothing happens. Okay, if I run away, nothing happens. Maybe when I pull away my energy completely and I just focus on my toys and stuff, suddenly my parent notices that I'm not there and they start looking for me or trying to rescue me. Okay, so this is how I get love. Again, it depends on the parent. The parent maybe would shout, hey, why did you run away? And you would say, okay, so I can't get love actually by withdrawing. Maybe I should then start crying or whining or whichever way I can get my attention or my fix, you know? That's how we develop these behavioral patterns in the childhood because it's like a trial and error. We try with our parent this way or that way. One parent is more avoidant, one parent is more anxious, or they're, on a spectrum of one extreme or the other. And then we see, oh, so this is the way I get my love. If I play games, if I, manipulate, or if I always pretend like I'm a good girl or I'm a good boy. Hey, mom, can I help you with something? And then my mom says, oh, sweetie, yeah. Okay, then I become a helper. Or if I please them, or if I, whichever way was possible, even if I irritate them and they hit me or yell at me, this is still an attention. This is how we create corrupt human beings, because the parents have a certain style of reaction, and this reaction is shaping our reaction. And at first, we try all kinds of reactions until we see things work. And then we assume that this reaction or the way we get this attention is the way to get love. And when we grow up and become adults, this is the way we start acting towards our partners or friends or people. So we start acting this way so that we can get that energetic fix. And we consider that receiving energy is love. But fundamentally, for most of the people, this energy is just attention, the focus of the focus of other person's conscious kind of consciousness on them, the energetic focus. So we don't know what love is, because love is very unconditional, peaceful, content being within ourselves. But until we reach that point of so-called enlightenment or clarity, we are in constant search for energetic fix, because very often we fail to generate that inner contentment and peaceful, blissful state or energetic equilibrium within ourselves. So we resort to demanding or trying to draw that fix or energetic supply into ourselves from the outside world, which is people or something else, some circumstances, or at least like, oh, do people look at me? Even if you create drama on a bus and someone quarrels with you, you still got that release, that attention, even in a negative way. Most of the people are energy vampires because they draw that energy from outside, but that energy is of a very low frequency. It has a very short span. It's like, let's say, crack. You cannot be satisfied for long, so you need to get another fix and another fix and another fix. And so, and the more you get that fix, the less you are able to generate that contentment and peace within oneself. And so people are actually codependent on the external reality. They are energetic vampires. They constantly need something, be it food, be it a drink, be it some substance or, stimulant, or be it emotional drama or some kind of emotional fulfillment that they would get temporarily from someone's attention or conversation or some kind of even entertainment that would make them feel like they, like for example, a movie or some kind of a show where they imagine that they are this hero, or, they live for a moment for 2, 3 hours in this fantasy world where they create an image of themselves, and that would also stimulate them. But again, all of these are not permanent fixes, because there's only one permanent fix, and it's like the alignment of consciousness in the body. Most of the time, the mind is outside the body, so it doesn't dwell inside the body. And so, because it doesn't, it wanders, it continuously tries to attach itself to external elements of the projected reality. And that's what causes the state of corrupt identity, because the corrupt identity is needy. It cannot generate its own energy because the mind is not fulfilled by the alignment of the consciousness with the body. There is a phenomenon of absorption, or in other words, dissolution of the mind, of that mental emotional substratum. So, because there is no alignment, the mental and emotional substratum needs food. And this food is this emotional charge or discharge. You need either to release something or to absorb something from the external reality. And that's how people constantly trigger themselves or each other with something, or stimulate themselves, or search for stimulation, or, you know, they need something to pay attention to something, because the mind is constantly needing that thing, because it's not looking, I would say, metaphorically upwards, meaning towards the consciousness. It is dispersed through the projected reality. It's kind of looking, instead of upward, it disperses, fragments itself even more through the projections, and looks for shadows, tries to explain shadows, looks for some synchronicity, goes into some details, and loses its energy. Because the mind can only regain energy by being aligned, or in other words, kind of surrendered or submitted to consciousness. Like, for example, having a deep sleep. The majority of people nowadays cannot even sleep deeply to gain that regeneration or recharge. That's why they become even more obsessed with the projected reality, even more dispersed, even more, agonized, and in search of that satisfaction, need to be seen and somehow fixed in some way. And that's the reality, and that's why this cycle is called the cycle of, corruption or dispersion, fragmentation, uh, material reality. Because there's nothing wrong with the reality itself. It is the way we kind of relate to it, right? We start trying to empower other people so that they can reflect that power back to us. Meanwhile, not even realizing that we are projecting that power, we are projecting that love, we are projecting that emotion or energy onto these people. We want to be loved. So, but before we get loved, we are so much empowering these people, so much projecting our own self onto them, idealizing them, in other words, so that just hoping that they would reflect it back to us. And then we would fall in love with that image of our own projection. So that's what's going on. And that's why the drama, because when you do not, you project on these people, but they are, let's say they are very deeply corrupt and energetically wounded, and they are vampires. They feed off your energy. In other words, let's say narcissistic, selfish, self-centered. So what happens then? You start observing emotional imbalance. You feel like you're giving, but you're not receiving, because these people are not able even to reflect back to you what you give. All they do is absorb it like a black hole. So narcissism or egotism or psychopathy, selfishness, whatever the degree the psychologists, define these disorders by, all of these are just one and the same phenomena to different degrees, or expressed somehow through the human context in a different way. But it's all just inability to generate any energy. It's a black hole. It's only the ability to suck in energy but never generate and give anything back, or reflect just to a certain degree to suck even more. And whether we start dispersing and or fragmenting it and going into, okay, but what is then spiritual possession, what are the attachments and all, it doesn't matter. These are just additional energy fields that are attached to these people, which create even more attractive power to these people so that they can suck even more. Meet a person, oh, so charismatic, so irresistible, because they carry all these attachments. And then you find out that these people are super psychopathic, super narcissistic. They could have even bipolar, that one moment they're like this, another moment they're like that. But these are attachments that also feed through this being by making them so charming, but in reality making this being super exhausting for their victims, for the people they're interacting with, because they are just a black hole, a very powerful black hole. But you, as a more conscious living being, you want to interact with these so-called black holes as if they were equal to you, as if they would be able to do, to generate that energy and to give you equal give and take of energy. But that is not the case. And that's where the disappointment takes place. And these beings, they will play a role the way you want them to appear, kind of. They will try to gain your attention by all means until you fall into that black hole and forget that this is you who has empowered them to begin with. And they were only playing in a way to get your attention so that it would be a constant supply of energy for them.
Mm.
And as you are a conscious being, the only way to protect your energetic boundaries is to protect your conscious boundaries. And to protect your conscious boundaries, you need to remain consciously in your body, because that ability allows you to stay in a state of absorption, which dissolves the mind or the mental substratum, which makes you balanced, which makes you aware and see things the way they are. So that, for example, you notice the moment you are that, people start suddenly calling, especially these people who are codependent on your energetic supply. They start asking for your energy or for some favors or just anyways, anyhow, to get your attention, your energy otherwise, right? So, but you don't need to give your mental energy or emotional energy. You can still communicate, reply, but remain in your body where you speak out of consciousness, not out of the limited mind. So that's the difference, you see. And then you realize what the phrase not to take things personally means. What it means. It means that you do not connect through that persona of yours or mind to these beings. Your story says they are my relatives, they are my family. But your consciousness understands it's a story of only this life. What were you before? You were a free consciousness. You didn't know this family. You didn't know anything about. So you may respect people, but you don't need to feed them. You know? You may respect people, but you don't need to constantly give them that emotional supply. Especially if you've noticed that they only feed off it and never give back energetically. When we fall into these states of, like you call, negative energy or low frequency, it's because we do not receive back, because we feel there is imbalance between give and take within your environment and between all the players, all the people around you. And you are to identify where is the drainage happening from. Is it this person or that person or all the people, or it's just like the circumstance in which I am because I'm still thinking and empowering this. That's how the leakage of energy is happening. So the practice here is to learn to block any kind of interaction. For example, when you feel that you're bombarded by these people's thoughts, right? Because how do people attach to us consciously? How do they drain us? They send thoughts. Thoughts are like those hooks, like from a fishing pole, you know? They're trying to fish for your energy by sending thoughts. Then when you start thinking of that, or of them, or of something that happened between you two, or maybe it's a group, or it's just a circumstance. Sometimes it's just some kind of a energy field around the circumstance that triggers you or bothers you, right? That makes you think. So that way, you start generating an emotion or a feeling in your body. And the moment the story, the thought generated the feeling and emotion, you start draining yourself. So when you identify what is it exactly that's draining you, if it's a person, it's very easy. If it's a circumstance, you kind of also imagine that this is just like some kind of energy field that is draining you through this. It's a story, basically. So what you do is you learn to unplug yourself from that. So even while walking, you can do this visualization when you unplug your sort of the energy cord that is connecting you to that energy field or people and their fields. Or you may also, affirm that I release this energy. I do not give it permission to affect my space of consciousness, my body, my life, my destiny. Releasing this energy, commanding it to be released from a particular area in your body or energy center, especially if you feel it there, like pain or tension or contraction or some kind of discomfort in general. And if it's already pain, it means that it's been for such a long time that that area has got drained completely. Because pain means lack of energy in there to the point that is alarming. Pain is an alarm. And what does our system teach us to do? To numb it. But the only way to heal it is to focus there, to feel it, to process it, and to release that which drains it. It's an energetic hook that has been created through the interaction with these people, or because you've been empowering these people mentally and or emotionally or spiritually even. And it doesn't need to be even people, it can be belief systems. It can be some kind of religious or spiritual narratives. It can be ideologies. And, when you empower these things, usually you create. How do you even empower things, by the way, or people? You somewhat at that moment, instead of keeping that gravitational pull within, or feeling that center within, you willingly give it to others, either because they manipulated you into that or because they present a charm. What is charm? What is charisma? What is attraction? It is that power, right? In Siddha Tantra or all these spiritual teachings, we know the phenomena of attraction. In Sanskrit, it's called Vashikaran, or it is that power of attraction. What is the power of attraction? To draw attention, to take your energy into oneself. What do people who have that power aim at, especially if they are incapable of generating anything? But let's say they have attachments that create these powers or this power. They try to charm, they try to appear extremely charismatic, they try to create what? An image. That's why in spiritual teachings we know, do not fall for images, for idols, right? Because when you fall for an image, you willingly, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously give your power away to that person. What is that power? The focus. You empower the image of them by projecting your own essence onto them and then falling in love or being attracted to that essence as a reflection without knowing that that is you. It's like a lion would look into the reflection of a lake, but not know that that is him or her, but would think that that reflection is really a beautiful and powerful being, not knowing it's them. So how do people fall for, let's say, romantic charlatans? And who is a charlatan? Or who is a warlock? Or who is a magician? Or who is that person who, it can be even unconscious being, just a corrupt soul who draws that attention to themselves, like a black hole. Who falls? People who do not recognize their worth, do not recognize their essence, and project it to others and fall in love with it. There is nothing wrong, let's say, with, I don't know, charming, naturally charming, beautiful people, maybe even spiritual guides or somebody who can help us to return to our essence. The problem is in people themselves, that they project oftentimes their power onto people who really are not capable of generating any energy of their own and are like black holes. But because they suck so much energy from all over, they cloak in that energy and reflect it back to people, appearing again and again more charismatic and more charismatic and more charismatic. Victims fall onto them or into them. That's what happens. All these different prophets and false gurus and teachers who generate thousands and millions of followers and all these different things, because or religions, which are the best example, where holiness is an image. You fall for an image. You project the highest of the highest essence onto that image and you fall in love with it, not realizing that that is your essence. Spiritual guidance is a reminder. Spiritual guidance has to return one to their essence. If that guidance is pushing you to believe in some kind of forms and names and images, then it's something false. Because as long as you're staying in the projected reality and looking for the truth, spiritual knowledge, I don't know, satisfaction, love in the projected reality, you are not going to find it. You are going to be always fooled and always drained. That's why there is only one spiritual practice, and it's remaining in the body consciously, retaining your energy or gravitating your energy towards your own being, not again in a selfish way, but so that you stay content and balanced, where you are no longer codependent on other people's reactions, actions, validations, attention, or anything like that. You no longer care what they say or don't say. You do validate people who give you equal or who participate in equal energetic give and take. But you withdraw your energy from people and protect your energy from people who only suck it out of you. And this is the only way you heal. We exist and other people exist too. We are so fixated on our own story, we start giving energy to the story, and story starts being almost like a living being or entity within us that starts trying to suck that energy more into self, into the story. You understand? Oh, I'm a victim, for example. But we at that moment also become like suckers of energy in terms that we don't take other people into account. What your father maybe is going through, or why he acted like this. You don't need to actually explain if you just can accept other people in that moment. The ability to accept is almost inexistent. Let's focus on what we can change in this situation. And the answer is only one's own reaction. You already reacted. Change what made you react. It's entitlement, because There is a story. It is my father. He owes me. This is the story. The root is not even reaction. The root is the story. Oh, but this person said they like me, so I can, constantly call them nonstop. You understand? I feel hurt, victimized, but at the root is the story of because they said they love me, or because they said that we are, let's say, in a relationship, or they're my parents or they're my siblings, they owe me. That entitlement is the root cause of trouble. The entitlement, because you've created a connection. So because of that's why certain people are afraid of relationships and connections, because this also makes them feel like the other person becomes entitled to their energy, or they become entitled to their energy, depending on how they react and how they used to deal with being in a connection. So that's why some people become anxious, because their need is there and they don't know how to control it. But fundamentally, it is, I want to connect because, and they don't know this because usually consciously, they know it somehow unconsciously, because I'm in need of energy supply. And when we are dealing with parents, or we become parents, it's the same thing. There is this just given entitlement. Oh, it's my parent, it's my brother, it's my sister, it's my aunt. They owe me, or I owe them. And through this fake, false idea of ownership, people bombard each other with negative emotions. They try to siphon energy from each other on the basis of this relationship. And the only way to protect yourself is to unplug energetic plugs that connect you with these people, or sever the cords, or burn the bridges, whichever way you want to look at it. But the idea is very clear. And again, how do you protect yourself? Because energy is subtle. You protect yourself from the subtle mental affirmation. Or again, another idea. That idea is of protective nature. You have this idea that you have a energetic barrier, and you do not allow these energy cords to reconnect to your body or space of consciousness. You feel them in the body, because actually your space of consciousness is hijacked or plugged in. And the moment you unplug, it becomes clear, free. You restore your balance and contentment again. You see? And you can do it throughout the day, especially if you're surrounded by family members who are used to draining each other because of these ties and natural entitlement created by the ties. That's it. It doesn't mean that you sever the connection with people, physical connection. Once the permission is removed, you start being clear. Your decision making is not influenced by other people's entitlements and energetic demands or issues. And then you can also create healthier boundaries